Hi everyone, Petrik here. So for the past 2 weeks, I hope all of you are doing well, but now we are in the month of November. And yeah, this is the biggest month, probably the biggest month of the year for those of us, for all of us who are a fan of epic fantasy and sci-fi. And somehow it seems like all the big release, all the big books and the big epic fantasy and sci-fi books are compressed into this 1 month in 2025, or almost all of them anyway. Of course, there is The Devils being released in the month of May, and a few other epic fantasy books as well. But most of the biggest release, in my opinion, are being compressed into this 1 month, November 2025. And I will talk about them today. I will narrow everything down to 11 or 10 books, because if we're actually talking about all the noteworthy release, I think this video will be super long. Instead, I will narrow things down into the top 11 or the top 10. And before I start talking about them, I'm to spotlight one book here. This book is out now, just released, and this was released last month. I think if you are active in the book community, you will have seen this book being talked about many times, and I'm talking about King Sorrow by Joe Hill. And yeah, as I mentioned, super thick book. This is, I think, 900 pages long, and this is the broken binding or the Black Crow edition, which I got to work on together with Joe Hill. So this one is out now. This is a standalone novel. This is the first book by Joe Hill, I think, in almost a decade, or maybe a decade. And I think many people have mentioned this to be his best work, his magnum opus. Even Mike from Mike's book review also mentioned this to be the best work by Joe Hill so far. And this edition features illustrations by Peng Lu. I still haven't read this one. I got to work on the design and also the composition of the illustrations together with Joe Hill and also Peng Lu for King Sorrow. But I'm so excited about reading this. But if you want to know about the premise of this one, look at this dragon. Of course, there will be dragons in this book. And I decided to go with an all-out dragon scale design with this one, like this on the front cover, and then this on the back cover, on the edges, sorry, and then on the back cover, and on the top, and also on the bottom edges. So everything, it feels like this is a dragon scale book. But if you want to know what King Sorrow is about, this is it. Be careful what you wish for. Bookish dreamer Arthur Oakes is a student at Rackham College, Maine, renowned for its frosty winters and beautiful buildings. But his idle and burgeoning romance with Gwen underfoot is shattered when local drug dealers force him into a terrible crime, stealing rare and valuable books from the exceptional college library. Trapped and desperate, Arthur turns to his closest friends for help: the wealthy, irrepressible Colin Wren, brave, beautiful Alison Shiner, the battling twins Donna and Donovan McBride, and brainy, bold Gwen. Together, they dream up an impossible, fantastical scheme that they scarcely imagine will work, to summon the fabled dragon King Sorrow to kill those tormenting Arthur. But the six stumble backwards into a deadly bargain. They soon learn they must choose a new sacrifice for King Sorrow each year, or one of them will become his next victim, unleashing consequences they can neither predict nor control. This promise will, over the course of 4 decades, shape and endanger their lives in a way they could never expect. So it sounds really good, and I look forward to reading this as soon as possible. It definitely won't happen within this year though, but I think I will be inviting Joe Hill to my YouTube channel to talk about books and to talk about the release of King Sorrow. But now let's talk about the books being released in the month of November. First, let's talk about all the noteworthy release being published on the 4th of November. We have a lot of books to talk here, and the first one, well, this is one of my most anticipated books, the conclusion to the Empire of the Vampire trilogy by J. Kristoff. This is Empire of the Dawn. And yeah, this is the third and final book in the Empire of the Vampire trilogy, featuring illustrations by Monolime and also Gonzalo. And this is the ARC, the Advanced Reading Copy edition. I don't have the copy, the finished copy of Empire of the Dawn yet. I believe it is on the way to me right now, but I look forward to reading the conclusion of this trilogy. I'm a fan of the first book, even though it took some time for me to get used to the narrative in Empire of the Vampire. But eventually it won me over, and I look forward to doing a second read of that one, and then diving into the second book, Empire of the Dam, and then finally reading Empire of the Dawn. It seems like many have agreed this is J. Kristoff's best book, and I'm pumped for that. I'm a big fan of the Nevernight trilogy, and I hope Empire of the Vampire trilogy will top that over. And then after that, still on the same date, we have book number 10 in the Chronicles of the Black Company by Glen Cook. So this is The Lies Weeping. I have read 6 books, I think. 5 or 6 books in the Chronicles of the Black Company series, and I haven't read further beyond that. I think the entire trilogy will be 12 books long, and this is the first part of the last trilogy in the Chronicles of the Black Company. So it is a big series. It is the grim dark fantasy series that inspired Malazan Book of the Fallen by Steven Erikson, and I had mixed feelings regarding the Chronicles of the Black Company. I personally love the first 3 books so much more than the rest of the series that I have read anyway. But I think the first 3 at the very least are worth the read. If you haven't read The Black Company yet, I do recommend it to give it a try. It is a great and also tersely written military epic fantasy. And then after that, we have The Blackfire Blade by James Logan, the sequel to the Silver Blood Promise and the second book in the last Legacy trilogy. I had such a blast reading the Silver Blood Promise. And I think Silver Blood Promise, the easiest way to talk about this is like it's combined many elements from epic fantasy books that we love, like The First Law and then Scott Lynch, Locke Moras by Scott Lynch, and then James Logan combined them into this one accessible and also very fun book. In my opinion, anyway, it is meant to entertain. It is not intentionally written to be super dark. It is filled with hope and fun banter and also great chemistry between characters as well. The first book worked really well as a standalone novel, and I look forward to reading the next story of Lucan Gardova in this book, The Blackfire Blade. The cover art by Jeff Brown, once again, is absolutely beautiful. And yeah, if you don't own the Broken Binding edition, I don't have it yet actually, but I think it is still available to purchase. I think, okay, I could be wrong about that. The sales for this one actually were really good. But moving on to the next one, still on the same date, the 4th of November, which is probably today. This one is The Judgment of Powers by Benedict Jacka. So Benedict Jacka is mostly well known for his work on the Alex Verus series. Many have mentioned that this is pretty much the UK version of the Dresden Files by Jim Butcher, taking place, the setting of the story, of course, taking place in the United Kingdom, London, and probably beyond that. But yeah, I'm a big fan of the Dresden Files. Again, that's one of those series that definitely took some time for me to get used to, probably after 3 books. But after that, I was so engrossed reading through the entire series. And some have mentioned Alex Verus concluded already is on that level. Some have mentioned it's even better. So it's only a matter of time before I dive into the urban fantasy series. But until then, well, we also have this another urban fantasy series from Benedict Jacka. The title of the series is The Inheritance of Magic. At this moment, I'm not sure how many books will be in the series yet. If you have read the series, let me know whether this one or Alex Verus is the superior series. And finally, the last book I'm going to spotlight being published on this date. This is The War Beyond by Andrea Stewart. So this is the sequel to The Gods Below. I'm a fan of the Drowning Empire? Yeah, the Drowning Empire trilogy, which begins with the Bone Shard Daughter and then Bone Shard Emperor and finally Bone Shard War. I'm a fan of that trilogy, and I haven't read The Gods Below yet. I don't know whether this one will top over the Bone Shard Daughter or not, but I do think that it's worth a try if you are a fan of the Drowning Kingdom, the Drowning Empire trilogy, Kingdom Empire. I always mix those two words around, but it's the Drowning Empire trilogy, and yeah, I look forward to reading this one. Congratulations to Andrea Stewart for the release of The War Beyond. And then let's move on to another date, shall we? This is on the 6th of November, and this is for The Tower of the Tyrant by J.T. Greathouse. So I have read 2 books by J.T. Greathouse. The first one is The Hand of the Sun King, which I consider to be one of my favorite first book of a series. I think it is criminally underrated. Great coming of age and also great magical school story. And then the second book, it just feels a bit more inferior compared to The Hand of the Sun King, and somehow things just, my schedule just went all chaotic, and I still haven't read the third and the final book in that trilogy yet. But The Tower of the Tyrant, this is a standalone title. It is not part of the Path and Pattern trilogy. It is not related to The Hand of the Sun King, and as of this moment, I believe this is a one-off standalone novel. I don't think there's any plan for any sequel or prequel to The Tower of the Tyrant yet. But if you want to know what is the premise of this book, this is it. A land divided, a history inked in blood, one sorcerer's quest for answers. The world beyond the city of the wise is fraught with danger, but Fola, a talented sorceress who has left the safety of its world, is unconcerned. She is on the hunt for magical remnants left behind by the first folk, ancient beings who are but the whispers of a memory. Only by finding them might she uncover the secret to their power and a way to pull the riven lands out of the darkness. Danger lies ahead for Fola, however she feels about it. And when events conspire to drag her into a cursed kingdom to investigate the death of its king, she is soon faced by threats from both the living and the dead. Fola will need to rely on her wits, her magic, and her unlucky friends if she's going to survive. But there is always hope, no matter how dark things get. And three things remain true above all else. Fellowship is stronger than isolation. The past will come back to haunt you. Nothing stays secret forever. And now we move on to the 11th of November, and this is the release of one of my most anticipated books of all time, which I had the pleasure of reading already. And of course, I'm talking about The Strength of the Few by James Islington, the second book in the Hierarchy series. I won't talk about this too long on this video. I have posted a full spoiler-free review of my thoughts regarding The Strength of the Few on my YouTube channel, on Goodreads, and also on Novel Notions, my blog. But yeah, I absolutely love The Strength of the Few. I think it is almost as good, or maybe as good, as The Will of the Many in a slightly different way, because this one expanded the world building and also the scope of the series in such a brilliant way, as expected of James Islington. If you have read the Lycanius trilogy, you know what to expect when it comes to the storytelling style and structure of James Islington. This doesn't mean that you will be able to predict the story. That's not the case. It's more like you can tell that this one will be another complex, awesome, and also insane epic story. And I got that from reading The Strength of the Few. And yeah, take a look at this again. This is the cover art by Jamie Jones, and this is the spine. This is the back cover, and I'm so blessed and honored that my review is once again featured on the Dutch jacket of The Strength of the Few. This time on the back cover. For The Will of the Many, it was on the front cover, which I consider to be one of my biggest achievements. I think that's super cool. But anyway, this book is out on the 11th of November, and I will also get James Islington on my YouTube channels. The second interview on my YouTube channel with James Islington. So yeah, look forward to that. And then after that, still on the same date, on the 11th of November, we have the next title in Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. I'm talking about Brigands and Breadknives. So this one, I haven't read it. I have read Legends and Lattes, of course, and then Bookshops and Bundas, the prequel title. But this, which I believe is the sequel or the next story chronologically in the Legends and Lattes world, I think will feature more of the characters from Bookshops and Bundas, at least from the cover art anyway. But this book is out on the 11th of November as well. And then finally, the last date to be talked about in today's video. This is on the 18th of November. So I'm talking about first Slow Guts by Claire North. So this is a sci-fi title by Claire North. I haven't read anything by Claire North yet, despite how many books she has published and how many books, almost all of them I think are very well received. And I still haven't read anything by Claire North yet. I think this one though, the premise sounds really good and fascinating, and here it is. Slow Guts is a galaxy-spanning tale of one man's impossible life charted against the fate of humanity amongst the stars. A powerfully imaginative space opera from multi-award-winning author Claire North, perfect for fans of A Memory Called Empire and The Vanished Birds. My name is Mawukana na Naze, and I am a very poor copy of myself. I'm telling my story. There are certain things I should perhaps lie about. I should make myself a hero, pretend I was not used by strangers and gods did not leave people behind. Here is one truth. Out there in deep space, in the pilot's chair, I died, and then I was reborn. I became something not quite human, something that could speak to the infinite dark, and I vowed to become the scourge of the world that wronged me. This is the story of the supernova event that burned planets and felled civilizations. This is also the story of many lives I've lived since I died for the first time. Are you listening? So I think this will be one of those stories that revolves around the main character telling their story to the audience. Just like the next and the final book I'm going to spotlight in today's video. And I'm talking about the conclusion to one of the best series that I have ever read, and it is Shadows Upon Time by Ruocchio. The seventh and the final book in the Sun Eater series is going to be released this month. And I can only applaud Ruocchio for its achievement for actually accomplishing this heroic feat, Herculean feat of completing this series in a relatively fast period of time, in my opinion, because this is a big series, and this last book, Shadows Upon Time, is I think 385,000 words long, or close to that word count anyway. It is practically the size of the Way of Kings, and it is so awesome. I love this book very much. I think it is one of the best books in the series, which is saying a lot. It is at the very least in the top 3 titles in the series, together up there with Demon in White and also Kingdoms of Death for me. After that, we also have Shadows Upon Time. And I will not spoil you if you want to know my full thoughts about Shadows Upon Time. Well, as spoiler-free as possible. I have posted a full review of that on my YouTube channel as well, but I absolutely loved it. This and also The Strength of the Few, they are easily some of the best books that I have ever read, and especially in this year where I don't get to read a lot of books. And to make things worse, most of the books that I did get to read, they are well, let's just say they are not up to the standard, to the high standard that I usually read, in my opinion anyway. Or maybe this is because I have read too many sci-fi or fantasy books, although I don't think we can read too many fantasy or sci-fi books. They are always my favorite genre of books to read. And well, The Strength of the Few and also Shadows Upon Time just prove that it's only a matter of quality and also subjective reading experience, of course. And well, they are some of my favorite books of all time. But anyway, I'm rambling. These are the top 10 or 11 noteworthy fantasy and sci-fi books to spotlight in the month of November. As I said, this is easily, in my opinion, the biggest release for the genre this year, for the fantasy and the sci-fi genre in the year 2025, in my opinion. And let me know which of these books interests you the most, which one you want to read as soon as possible, or maybe you have read some of this. Well, let me know your thoughts anyway in the comment section down below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and thank you for your support. Bye-bye. Lastly, I want to say thank you so much once again to all my patrons who keep on supporting me.